This week we're going to be talking about pre-trip prep, what you need to do or what you should know before going on a Disney cruise. This is episode 64. I'm Soraya.
I'm Aurora.
And together we're just your average Disney travelers. So I decided to do this topic because I was talking to a friend a couple of weeks ago and they were literally less than a week from getting on their cruise. They were going on a Disney cruise. It was not their first time on a Disney cruise, but they had never heard of things like fish extenders or didn't know about things like you can go onto Facebook and get into a cruise group and all of that. And so I thought we need to do an episode about what kinds of things you need to know before going on a cruise. And plus, we're in this process right now. We are getting ready to go on a cruise. By the time this airs, we will have just gotten off of it.
Yep.
So we're on the end that's the happy, excited end. When this airs, we'll be on the, that's over now, end of it. But for now, we're happy, excited. But we're also in the process of doing all of the getting ready and making sure all of our ducks are in a row and all of that. It's a phrase. Get your ducks in a row.
That's an interesting phrase.
It is an interesting phrase.
I kind of like it. It has ducks involved.
And now you'll be saying it, I'm
Yep.
sure. Okay, so we're going to talk about some of the things that you need to know and what maybe some of the timeline of what you need to be thinking about once you book a trip before you sail. We're not going to talk about necessarily what to pack. We're not going to talk about what you're doing on a cruise necessarily, but we're going to talk about the things that you're going to want to do in between booking and sailing.
Yeah.
All right. So what should we start with?
Okay, so first, after you're booked, go to Facebook and find your cruise page.
Yeah.
I almost forgot to say the second bit. Just go to Facebook.
Just go onto Facebook and tell everyone you're going on a cruise and make them all jealous. No, That is not what we're saying.
That is exactly
No,
what
it's not what we're saying. Okay, so you may not know this, but just about every cruise, Disney cruise, I don't know if other cruise lines do this. I would assume so, but I've never cruised other cruise lines, so I wouldn't know for sure. But you can go on and you can find your cruise. Somebody will have started a page for it, guaranteed. Unless you're booking literally right at the first opportunity to book a cruise, then maybe because usually people don't start it until they've actually booked. But it often is that first day or two of people booking, somebody starts it because they're well-seasoned cruisers at this point. They're the ones that have first access to it. And so chances are you're going to find your cruise. How you do that is you put in the cruise ship name and date of your sailing. So, for instance, when we went to Alaska, it would have been Disney Wonder, September 2nd, 2019. And then it'll pop up that, there's a cruise group that is labeled that, and you go to join it. And when you go to request to join, it's going to ask you a few questions because they really only want people who are already booked and going on this cruise. But it's usually something like, are you booked on a Disney cruise? What is the date of the sailing? What is the name of the ship you're going on? Which is all right in that title. But for whatever reason, they have you answer those questions and then they'll approve you and then you're in this group. Not everybody that is going to be on the ship will be in this group because, like I said, a lot of people don't know about these things. And even people who do know, maybe they just don't care. They don't go on Facebook and they're not interested in coordinating anything. But some of the cool reasons why you would want to go onto Facebook and find your cruise page, what you're going to be able to get from that is the biggest thing for us is that this is where you can sign up to do exchanges like fish extenders.
Yeah.
Which is the little gift exchange. It's kind of like, think of it along the lines of like a Secret Santa or something like that. But they also have other exchanges, and it's all based on whoever wants to start up an exchange or a group or something, whoever's in your cruise. So you might see people starting up magnet exchanges. I've seen sock exchanges. I've seen recipe exchanges. All sorts of different types of gift exchange type of groups. But the biggest one, the one you're going to always find on every Disney cruise group, is the fish extenders. We're not going to get into what fish extenders are right now, but it is basically just a exchange. Do you sign up to get in? You get assigned a handful of cabins or families that you're going to give gifts to, and that many of groups or cabins are going to give gifts back to you. And to get more information on that, you can search fish extenders. I don't know, have we ever done an episode just about fish extenders?
Nope.
Maybe we will. Maybe we'll do that in the future. But anyhow, another reason why you might want to go into that group is that this is a good place to coordinate unofficial social activities. So, for instance, on our last cruise, they did like a pajama breakfast where we all decided to show up at the same restaurant at the same time on the same day in our pajamas for breakfast. And someone spearheaded it. They let Disney know, hey, we've got about 40 people showing up in their pajamas for breakfast at this restaurant. Be ready for us. And they were. They had a bunch of tables in the group area together, and they reserved it for our group. And that was really fun. It was it was like the first morning, I think, of our cruise in Alaska. And
we also had like an ice cream.
Yeah, we did. So there was an ice cream social.
Yeah.
It was specifically for kids. They wanted a group to let the kids get together and meet each other, but it ended up being kids and their parents, so it was families.
Yeah.
And it was right after we all boarded. It was like before the muster drill, so probably like around 3 or so, where it was warm in the afternoon and people might have been already in the pool area swimming, and we just met over at the ice cream station, and some people coordinated bringing some toppings, and so we had all sorts of fun little toppings they could make little sundaes out of.
Yeah.
They had like Pop Rocks and syrup,
that was interesting because like as soon as you put it on the ice cream,
it started popping.
Yeah.
Because of the moisture in the ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was fun to eat though. Anyway, so different things. They've also had like meet and greets. If you have, we've been on cruises. Actually, that cruise where the leader had created in this Facebook page, they coordinated like everyone ordering shirts that were themed, and he designed them, and everyone could order shirts or sweatshirts. They had arranged it with a printer, a clothing company that provided them for us at a good price. And then if they didn't have them shipped to you, then you could go and pick them up at this place. And anyways, just all these different things can get coordinated from time to time. Sometimes you're going to see more than others because, like I said, these are not official. These are all done just by other cruisers. And so it'll be a little bit different every cruise. But these are just some of the things you can expect. You'd also get a chance to meet fellow cruisers online before actually cruising. And sometimes you'll just kind of start to make friendships even just based off of conversations or questions people are asking and their responses. And some people have even requested to sit together at dinner because they enjoyed so much getting to know each other online. So that happens in those groups. Other things you can do is look for people who want to share experiences like renting a cabana. Maybe you want to rent a cabana, but you want to split the costs. So you need to find another small family to share that cabana with that day, or other types of like private excursions where you're not meeting the maximum, and if you have another group with you, it would cut the cost down for you. So that's a good place to coordinate those. And then often it's just a good way to stay up to date on information about things that are relating to your cruise. So things like right now, as we're preparing for our cruise that leaves in just a few days as of this recording, we've been watching, of course, the CDC guidelines and what level are each of the cruise ships at. So what level is ours at? Have the recent sailings had anything that's interrupted any of the programs, like the kids clubs? Things like that have been discussed in our group. People are talking about what their plans are, how they're handling different COVID testings and all of that. And so it's just a nice way. It's not necessarily an official way to get that information, but it is a way that you're going to see stuff that's pretty relevant to what you're doing. And it just gives you a quick alert. I sometimes hear from them more quickly than what I would hear just looking through news reports, or even sometimes from my travel agent. What I get from them is sometimes quicker. So anyways, lots of good information there, but it's fun. It's a quick way to start out your cruising experience, just going there and getting set up and in that group, so that way as you get closer to your cruise, you can be involved with that kind of planning. The next thing you would do is set your alerts. What are some of the alerts we need to set?
your pay in full date.
Yeah, big one that you don't want to miss.
Yeah.
Absolutely do not want to miss that date. It's going to be different like what your pay in full date will be different based on what kind of cruise you're on, where you're going, what time of year it is, all of those things. But when you, and during normal times, it varies, but right now, because of COVID, until or through September 30th of this year, 2022, right now the pay in full date is 60 days from your sailing. But usually it varies. It could be much earlier than that. But you'll want to know, and once you book your cruise, you'll be told what your pay in full date is if you haven't already paid in full. And you want to set an alert on your phone. I would alert myself maybe even a month before it's due, and then a week before it's due, and then a couple days before it's due, so that I don't accidentally miss. Because if you don't pay in full, that's it. You get cut. You're not on that cruise, and you lose all of that. So don't do that. Make sure you set an alert. What else should we set an alert for?
The cancellation deadline.
Which is same thing, same reason. If there's the cancellation deadline does vary, again, based on the cruise. And even now, with the relaxed cancellation rules, it still varies a little bit based on which cruise you're at. So find out when your cancellation date is and set an alert, because if you do end up needing to cancel the cruise, you need to cancel it by that date in order to get all of your money back. If you cancel after that date, you're not going to get everything back. And so, although right now, because of COVID, even if it's the day of your cruise, if somebody in your group ends up with COVID, then of course you can cancel it. But that's just a temporary thing, we hope. In under normal circumstances, even if someone were to get sick, it's not an excuse to get your money back. So you always want to know when the cancellation dates are, and then also plug for insurance. Always get trip insurance for that. Okay, what else should we put an alert for?
Day to make excursions and onboard activity reservations.
Right. So the first thing when you're going to make these reservations, most of the time when you've booked your cruise, you're way too far in advance to be able to do that. You can't book your excursions right away unless you're booking a cruise kind of last minute within a couple months of sailing. But typically, first you have to be paid in full if you're booking through the cruise line. And then also your booking window is going to be based on your Castaway Key status. If you're a first-time guest, it's your first time on a Disney cruise, then you are eligible to make those reservations once you hit 75 days prior to your sail date. But if you've been on a cruise already, then you're part of Castaway Club. You automatically get whenever you start sailing with Disney, you're automatically part of the Castaway Club. So Silver Castaway Club members can make these reservations 90 days prior to their sail date. Gold Castaway Club members can do this 105 days prior to the sail date. And then Platinum Castaway Club members can make them 120 days prior.
It's silver?
We are currently silver. By the end of this year, I will be gold.
Oh, man. I want to be gold.
But you'll still be silver. But anyhow.
I just have to go on more cruises then.
Oh, I agree. We should tell Dad. Anyways, so set your alerts though, because some of the most popular excursions and activities do get booked up quickly. In fact, the platinum and gold members might even take them all before it gets to your group. But even when it makes it to you, you want to book as soon as possible, because it will eventually, a lot of these do get filled up. Not all of them. There's still some things you can do. But you definitely want the best pick you can get, and you do that by having your alert, knowing when you're like literally the very time that the window opens, and getting on and choosing what you want first, as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Okay, another alert.
Online check-in date.
Yeah, the online check-in date, it's partly about convenience. It's a lot of filling out a lot of documentation about your family. Each person in your family, you have to fill it out for everyone. It does take a little bit of time. I want to say for the 4 of us, I don't know. It probably takes, it was only 3 of us this time. It probably takes at least 10 minutes per person, I would say, to fill out all of the stuff, if you have everything on hand. If you don't, if you need to take your photos of each other and things like that, then it's going to take you a little bit of time. But if you already have some pictures ready, they do require, it used to be at the port when you arrived, they would take everyone's photo. Now they're asking you to upload a photo. This is different than like your passport pictures and things like that. This is solely so that when they pull up your reservation or they swipe your room key, it'll pull up your photo and they know who they're talking to. And it's just for their Disney's personal, their use to be able to know whose face is who. It helps like the cast members as they serve you to be able to recognize you and everything. And so they will ask you to upload that, and that's part of the check-in process. So if you have that on hand already, then you can do it really quick, but it might take longer if you don't have all of that information ready, including things like your passport number and expiration date, and then entering everyone's addresses, and all of that has to be done for each person. It's kind of tedious, and so you'd say, why is it so important to do it so quickly? You can just do it any time. And this is something that you do 30 days before. You can start doing 30 days before you go, and you might say, I don't need to do that. I just need to do it before I go to the cruise port. However, you need to check in online in order to get a port arrival time. And that's the reason why I like to do it as soon as possible. Because the port arrival time is the time that you are allowed to arrive to get on the ship. And so if you if you can't do it certain times, say you're still on your way traveling there, which I don't recommend. I recommend being in the area already the night before. But if you're not going to be able to make it by a certain time, then you're going to definitely need to wait until, after that time. Or if you really want to make it on board before a certain thing is going to happen, like if there is a group activity that's being planned in your group, then you want to make sure that you're on there beforehand. I just like to get on the ship as soon as possible. We like to get there as early as we can get a cruise port arrival time.
Yep.
And so definitely want to check in online and set your alert for that.
Yeah. Safe passage registration.
Yeah, so this is something that's new because of COVID.
Yeah.
And Safe Passage is something that I believe all the cruise lines are using it. It's not run by Disney. This is just Disney. You put in that you're going on a Disney cruise and you put in that information. But it's where you register your COVID status, your vaccination status. And, there's a lot of controversy about that. But regardless of how anyone feels about it, it's what's required right now to cruise. Disney does require that all guests that are vaccine eligible based on the U.S. eligibility requirements, every one of those have to be fully vaccinated in order to sail. And as of right now, when this airs, that will mean that everyone 5 and up has to be fully vaccinated to cruise with Disney. And if you're not already vaccinated, then you need to make sure you're scheduling yourself to get vaccinated. And not just vaccinated, but then allowing the full 2 weeks after the final dose before sailing. And then if you have someone that can't be vaccinated, a young child, then you need to plan to schedule their COVID tests before sailing. Disney is requiring those tests to be done 3 days to 24 hours prior to the sail date. And so you get onto Safe Passage and you enter all this information about 15 days before the cruise. And it takes a few days before they clear you, but eventually you'll get an email that says you're cleared to arrive at the port. It doesn't even say you're cleared to sail because you won't be cleared to sail yet, but it gives you the all clear to just show up. And you want to do this as early as possible because if there's a confusion or mix-up or if there's something that needs to be clarified, you want to have time to do that before it's time to arrive. So that's what Safe Passage is. That is a new thing, and I don't know how long it's sticking around, but it's here for now.
Yeah. And around 2 weeks prior to start, you should start taking a burn.
Oh man, you're talking today. This is the end of your winter break, and you're not quite school ready. Tomorrow morning, you're back at school, girl. Oh man, are you ready?
No.
Okay, so 2 weeks prior, you should have a
emergency and ginger.
Yeah, this is a personal thing that I have that we do, and not everybody needs to do this. So maybe this is just a suggestion because it's what we do. So about 2 weeks before we sail, I start making our family have emergency every day, which is it's just a vitamin boost. It's if you're not familiar with emergency, it's like is what's that other one called? Airborne or
No
something
idea,
like that.
probably.
So anyways, it's just a drink that's full of vitamins. It helps keep you healthy. And we did this well before COVID. And then I personally start taking ginger every day because ginger helps to settle my stomach. And so it's just, I don't think it's necessary to do it necessarily at 2 weeks because I think if I did it just a couple days before, it'd probably be in my system too. But ginger doesn't hurt. It's natural. So I take a ginger pill every day for 2 weeks before our cruise. So having an alert or something to remind you. Now, I don't actually set an alert for that because we already usually have a countdown and I know when we're 2 weeks away from a cruise because we're getting excited and talking about it. And so, but around that time, that's when I start doing those things.
Yeah.
Okay, so something else you're going to want to do before your cruise is to download the Disney Cruise Line Navigator app. And you're going to use that app to do a lot of those things above that we set alerts for. When the time comes, you're going to be using your app to do your check-in, and you're going to use your app to make your reservations for your activities, things like that. So make sure you have that, and then once you're on board, you're going to use that app a lot.
Yep.
All right, and then another thing is to make sure that you have your passports up to date. Do that as soon as you've booked your cruise if you hadn't already done it, and make sure that you have them up to date. Keep in mind that if your passport's set to expire within 6 months, sometimes they will refuse it. So if you're getting close to your expiration, just go and renew it real quick, well in advance, so you're not risking not having that.
Yeah.
All right, so this is also a good time to start gathering items. What do we need to gather items for?
Pirate night. If
Yeah,
you have it.
Yeah, if there's gonna be a pirate night on your cruise, if you want to participate, start collecting things for that.
A special themed day.
Right, like ours is gonna be a Marvel. But they have Star Wars themed, and so
Yeah.
if you have any special event going on during your cruise that you want to do something about, dress up for.
Holiday.
Yep. So like Halloween.
Yeah. Formal and or semi-formal night.
Yeah, so if you're on a cruise that's 7 nights or longer, you're definitely going to have a formal night as well as at least one semi-formal night. Ours is just a 5-night this time, and so we won't have a formal night, but we will have a semi-formal night. And you might not care, and if you don't care, then don't worry about it. But if you know that if other people are dressed up, you're going to want to dress up, or if you like an opportunity to dress up, be aware of how many nights you might have, and bring, stuff accordingly.
Yep. Exchanges.
Yeah, so if you signed up for Fish Extender or Magnet Exchange or whatever, you can start collecting those things.
And then for a list of ideas on what to pack, check out our episode 29.
Episode 29 when we talked about what to pack.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. So just start gathering those things. So if you can, using thrift stores, getting pirate outfits or things like that, or if you can start gathering your Fish Extender gifts ahead of time, it'll just kind of help make it so that you're not scrambling at the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things like magnets for your doors and all that kind of stuff. Those are things you want to think about ahead of time. All right, so this is before you leave home. We have this trip. We're going to be taking an at-home COVID test. We're all fully vaccinated, but for our own peace of mind, before we get on the airplane, we're going to test because we want to. If we're gonna, we'd rather know before we use the flight and get stuck in Miami than showing up in Miami thinking we're fine because we're vaccinated and then ending up that we're positive at the cruise port. So we are choosing to, even though we aren't required by anybody else, to self-test at home before we leave to give us peace of mind. And hopefully that means when we get there at the cruise port the next day, we will also have a negative there. So that's something that you may want to prepare for by getting those tests. And then on that day of when you're going to be boarding, that's called Embarkation Day, there is on the app a form, and it's called, what is it called? Embarkation Day Health Questionnaire. And it used to be something that you could just print out ahead of time, or they'd give it to you at the cruise port, I believe. But now it shows up on the app, and it doesn't show up until that day, I don't believe. So wait until that day, that morning, go down there, and you need to fill it out for each, I think it might just be per stateroom. just saying that nobody in your stateroom's been sick or had a fever or had vomiting or anything like that within 3 days. But I believe it's been revised to maybe indicate more things that would be in line with COVID symptoms. But anyhow, you'll need to fill that out on the app. And then the last thing I would say is Disney will, prior to your leaving, send you some tags for your luggage. Don't put those on before your flight if you're flying. Wait, and once you're at the city that you're departing from for your cruise, put it on your luggage before you go to the cruise port. Because you don't want to get any messed up with the airlines. This is strictly for Disney.
Yeah.
It's solely so that when you drop your luggage off at the curb at the cruise port, it will get to your stateroom.
Yeah.
So that is the last thing, which they send to you about a week and a half to 2 weeks before you're cruising. And even if they don't, if you didn't get the mail, like maybe you're on vacation and you're doing some big thing before you're going on your cruise and you left before that arrived, don't worry. Once you get there, you tell them what stateroom you're in and they will tag it appropriately. But anyways, so that's lots to do, lots to know. That's one of Aurora would say this is one of our boring episodes.
Yeah.
But it's so helpful to know these things because if you've not cruised before or if you've not cruised Disney before, and even if you have, some of these things you just wouldn't know, especially with the changes with COVID. And then, like I said, I have a friend that just went on a Disney cruise, and this is their second one, and they didn't even know about the Facebook groups and fish extenders, which right now they're not doing fish extenders because of COVID. But still, the groups can be really fun, and they were missing out on that. So hopefully the next time they'll be able to do that. So anything else you want to add? Just that we're really excited to go on our cruise.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, we're going to get ready to do that and see you on the other side. So we'll talk to you next week.
See you.